Okay, here we go. This is part 4 of why we've been operating under the illusion that we've had rights and that they've been secured, and why it's required to have order followers in order to do that, to make sure that we don't have our rights secured. So this part's going to get pretty heavy for a lot of people, I'm imagining, especially if you've carrying a lot of illusions that you're not even aware of that you're carrying. So I expect that if you're watching this and you're sensitive to being confronted with the truth, possibly maybe take a break and come back at another time. So as you can see, we've got obviously the classic order followers here. You know, look at him, he's like a military man, really, isn't he? Look at how much weapons he's got: the sidearm and the automatic weapon, right? He's got the flak jacket with all the extra little toys on there. Yeah, comms just here. So it's virtually military. And then let's have a look at these hands, right? Have a look at this, right? Even behind them, they've got a specific way that they hold their hands, right? So you can't even see it, yet they hold it, right? And then have a look here, same thing, right? It's very uniform. See that? Uniform. They're wearing uniform and they're uniform in their posture and how they hold themselves. Now that's some very, very good training, guys. Think about how much programming goes into that. If even the way they hold their hands, which no one else can see but them, you know, they're too afraid to do it any other way, right? That's some solid programming. Now, when I typed in the word corporate uniform, right, this is what came up. So, you know, those who work in the corporations, they have a uniform too. There it is. Then have a look at the trader uniform, right? So you have a look how it goes in every aspect of our behavior, right? And then this is the one that's going to get really tough for people, I imagine: sport. And sport is a cult as well. Yeah, you probably didn't want to hear that. Now, if you think about what does sport push, right? Sport pushes winning and losing, right? And what do they do to each other? Look at all the physical violence they enact on each other, you know, and this is something we glorify. So we glorify the violence on the football field, but yet when it happens off the field, right, it's shunned. It's like you're defective. There's something the matter with you. But we'll all come here and we'll cheer them, you know, when they hurt each other. And we think that's wonderful. Now, you think about that self-contradictory rules that the society plays by. How is that not a state of permanent confusion? You know, you can take a real good, long, hard think about it. And what does the idea of winning and losing, what does that set up? It sets up us and them, inferior and superior. Because if you win, you're superior. That means, you know, you can only feel good if you're better than someone else. That's the only way you're going to have these dopamine releases. You see, that's conditioning you to the only way you can get a dopamine release is when you dominate someone else. You see the pattern here? And then when you lose, what do you get? Well, you get to feel shame, you know? You get to feel worthless. So you hate it so much, you come back and try again. You'll do anything to win. So that's the dynamic setup. That's that duality. There's no other option. There's only one way to be, and that is a winner or a loser. You've got to be one of the two. You think about that. And then on the football field, what else is allowed to happen? Well, men are allowed to cry, aren't they? They're allowed to show acts of affection towards each other, but only on there. So you see, they're allowed to actually express their emotions. It's the only safe way to do it is out in the football field. You think about how tragic that is, right? This is all brilliantly controlled, guys. What do you think football gets so much time and energy on the TV? It's pushing that, making sure that you stay a good order-following slave. And you think about the football clubs, right, and how they carry on when they're out at night. You know, how many times they've been charged, all these members, and it's come out, you know, that they've been behaving in ways that have been violating females, you know, and they use them as just like this tool or this like container for their entertainment, you know, and they just dismiss them. You think about how does that even happen, right? Where they don't even think in any way, shape or form about what it's like to be a sentient being on the receiving end of their violations to them. How does one shut that off, right? That's some serious programming. And that's what we all come and endorse, women as well, you know? Think about that. Like, that is some serious, serious sickness that's going on, and it's never been looked at. So all you guys who are in the truth movement, right, and you're still following sports, you can't fix the problem by actually promoting what it is that's underlying and part of it. Doesn't work that way. It's all or nothing, guys. You can't have some of it, you know, we can say it's okay. This is suppressed consciousness. This act is the act of suppressed consciousness. And look how young we're teaching them so young to engage in this. So when you go out on your Saturday nights or Saturday afternoons watching the local footy and think it's all innocent, you're actually programming your children to behave in exactly the same way. That is the reason why we're living this nightmare. This is the really solid, hard truths, guys. You know, it's whether you've got the courage to look into it really deeply and listen to your conscience and let it talk to you. That's the hard part, right? There's a real work there, because it requires you to shut your ego. Not so much shut it, but accept that there's a lot of ego here that's being run. Because anytime you accept that there's a winner and loser, that's all ego. It's got nothing to do with interconnectedness of life. That's a disintegration. That's a disidentification. That's a lack of understanding that there's only one life, right? We are just mere expressions of the one life force that courses through all our veins. So why would we ever be competitors with each other? That only stands to gain to a very small minority that need us to work against each other in order for them to dominate. That's what this is all about. So now I'm going to go to the other part, right? And that's the and what they call the ancillary cult members, right? The supporters of cult members, right? This is the overwhelming majority. This is why it's allowed to go on the way it is. You know, so you've got people like this, the ancillary cult members, right? So I pinched this from Mark, so sorry, Mark, but it was just easier than me making one. So these are like the pit crew that supports the order followers. You know, why do they support them? Well, because they're my spouse, or they're my daughter, or they're my son, it's my brother, it's my auntie, it's my dad. You know, I want to be supportive of them, not thinking for a moment as to what it is that they're supporting, right? Because they've convinced themselves, you know, they've needed to convince themselves that their relatives or whoever it is that they're supporting are doing something virtuous and noble. So it's noble to follow orders. It's noble to shut down your consciousness. It's noble to harm others. That's a noble thing. That's a virtue. See how you can trick yourself? And that's what the majority of the planet has done. It's actually, you know, convinced itself that these are noble pursuits, to shut down your capacity to give from the heart and do what you're told, because, you know, it's your job, like seriously. So, you know, what they're facing is that there's a fear that of confrontation, right? That they don't want to confront those others, you know, because what they say, they lay down their lives for us. You know what they say about the police? Oh, every day they go and lay their lives down for us, you know, what that's like. No, every day they come out and they treat us like slaves. That's what they actually do, right? So if they were actually being constables, there'd be no fear of laying down their lives, because we live in an actual society where people actually cared about each other. You know, they wouldn't be trained to be order followers. They'd be acting from conscience. So there'd be nothing to fear. That's the difference, see? Because you're coming to be a head kicker, yeah, you've got plenty to fear, for sure. So, you know, here's the struggle, right? These order followers and their supporters, especially the supporters, you know, the ancillary cult members, they actually have a really important role to play in change, and they're just not doing it. And that requires a fair bit of effort. So I'm just going to bring up another image. You know, so here's more pictures of these, you know, the ancillary cult members. So, you know, true change, it lies in the power of the herd and can only occur through the absence of support for the few who wish to dominate, that seek to concentrate their power and consolidate it. So while this support remains, their power grows, right? That's what we've been living, and we're witnessing it now. So, you know, this is about, this requires the ending of going along to get along, right? We've got to end that belief, you know, so ending statements like, well, you know, that's what you get for, you know, not obeying the law. You know, what law? It's not a law. It's usually something that was invented by man, or the legal system, you know, or, oh, that they had just cause to do that to him, you know, or, you know, like, you do the crime, you do the time. Most of the time it's not a crime. 99% of the time it isn't. Or they're just doing their job, you know, all justifications. So the thing that we miss out on, right, when you're a supporter of an order follower, is you deny yourself your, you know, infinitely powerful, divine and sacred capacity for heart-based intelligence, such as deep care, compassion, empathy, and presence. You know, so you don't get access to this superpower, but it's a necessary access in order to transform the world into what it is that we're seeking, and being able to live with freedom and prosperity. That's where I want to leave it for now.